Hey guys, welcome to the Love of Books, Movies, and Happiness. My name's April. Today's review is books 1 through 3 of the Chicago Ruthless series by Sadie Kincaid. I apologize in advance for my voice. Recently got over my second round of being sick. Same sickness from December, like a 3-week long virus. I am better. It's just my voice waits until I try to do a video and then decides to go wonky. So we're going with it. All right. If you like mafia type stories, touch her and die feel of the stories, dominant alpha males, strong, somewhat independent women, then this is going to be mostly the series for you. Or at least for the women with backbone. Put it that way. Alright guys, I recently picked up this series as I've heard so much about mafia romances. And I enjoy a good movie. Like Goodfellas, The Family, movies like that. So I figured, looking for something new to read, mafia was one genre I have not dipped my toes into. So did a quick search on Kindle Unlimited and came across the Chicago Ruthless series. Like, cool, Chicago, sounds good. You know, I grew up in Illinois, so Chicago, sure, based in Illinois, that's fine. We start off with Dante is the first book. This is where we meet the Morretti family. You have Lorenzo is the oldest sibling. You have Dante. And you have their sister Joey. There is another sister, Antonia. And then they have their cousin, Max. Max is like a brother to them. They may be cousins, but at the same time, essentially Dante and Lorenzo, he grew up with them as pretty much like siblings. Okay, so they're all super close. They're one big family. Well, at the beginning of Dante, which is the first book, there's a whole thing where the father is getting ready to step down and wants one of the sons to take over. He gives an ultimatum to Lorenzo of who's married a woman that the father doesn't approve of. Instead, he wants Lorenzo to marry a different girl that they could create a family connection with for another family. Mafia ties, pretty much. Well, Lorenzo refuses. And the father then says, well, then if you aren't going to do what you're told, then you don't get to be in charge. Your younger brother Dante will. Lorenzo doesn't care. Lorenzo's like, sure, cool, whatever. So Dante becomes head of the family. Not that the dad is fully out of the picture, unfortunately, sorry, but he's stepped off and Dante is now in charge. There's a whole thing that happens where, like, he goes through with the engagement to this girl that he's supposed to, but then it, like, skips a couple of years, or a few years down the road, and you find out that Dante and the girl never actually got married. Lorenzo went off with his wife out of the country elsewhere to go be with her and be away from his father and all the stuff going on. Joey still lives with her brother. And Max becomes the enforcer, pretty much, or like the negotiator for the family. He helps get deals done, uses force when necessary, but he helps make a point. So, we fast forward a few years where we meet Kat. Now, Kat is a nurse. She's a registered nurse. She's been working at the ER for years. She has a brother who's no good. He's pretty much useless. But he likes to gamble. He always thinks that he's gonna make it big. Unfortunately, he ends up owing Dante's family money. Well, he can't pay it, so he disappears because he knows that they're looking for him. Dante and Max show up at the house that he's been staying at with his sister, only to find out she doesn't know where he is because he took off with her life savings and disappeared. Well, Dante, for reasons of his own, decides if he's not going to pay us the money, we're going to take you as collateral. And now poor Kat, her fear is what her purpose is. Like, why are you taking me? What am I possibly going to do for you? I don't want to be used like as a prostitute or something like that. Then he's like, no, not going to do that. I'm not going to end up like forcing women. You're a nurse, right? You know how to stitch people up, clean wounds, that kind of thing. We're always getting injured. You'll simply be our prisoner pretty much and work for us until his debt is paid off or if he decides to pay us. Kat's not thrilled, but she doesn't really have much choice. They don't give her a choice. She does try and hit him with a baseball bat. Max ends up stopping her. Max grabs the baseball bat and restrains her and keeps her from doing any harm to anyone, much to her unhappiness. So they move Kat into the house. And I'm not gonna lie, even from the very first interaction, there's a strong attraction. She's not happy about it. He doesn't want to acknowledge it, but there's a strong attraction. The rest of Dante's story is him and Kat fighting each other, fighting the attraction. It is a very good story. There is a lot of tension and enemies to lovers to it. There is a lot of, in the end, there's a touch her and die feel to it. It's a really good story that keeps you hooked. And it definitely has some spicy scenes. There is a warning for Dante's story on mentions of rape and sexual assault. There was an episode for Kat a couple years before where she had been kidnapped from the hospital parking lot and for like 2 or 3 days was assaulted and raped by a couple guys. And since then, his horrible nightmares from it, post-trauma from it, she's suffering. So that is in there. It does get resolved in a very satisfactory way, at least to me. So it is in there, but it is a very good story. And in book 1, we do end up, Lorenzo brings his wife back to the States, partly because his wife, Anya, has been diagnosed with cancer Again, this is like her 3rd round of cancer. Just as a side note, keep that in mind. Okay? So book 1, Dante and Kat, little rough start, enemies to lovers, touch her and die feel. Dante is one of those, he's not a good guy, but in his heart he can be a good man. He just doesn't have good work. So he's morally gray with a good heart, essentially. Then we go to book 2, which is Joey, which is the younger sister. She's known as the Mafia Princess. I mean, to people on the outside, it looks glamorous. You know, they have money. She has armed escorts everywhere. You know, she can get what she wants because businesses are afraid to say no because she's the younger sister to the mob. You know, however, Joey has a problem. She's in love with Max. And Joey's story does a really good job of highlighting the fact that just because she's a mafia princess doesn't mean she gets her way all the time. She's essentially bound by the same restrictions that any of the women in the family are bound by. She's not happy about it, but she is. Okay? So she's in love with Max. Has been for years. Max tries to consider her like a younger sister. Doesn't quite work. He has the hots for her, but when he was a teenager with her brothers, they had all made the pact that, you know, younger siblings are off limits. He wouldn't touch Joey. So he's done his best all these years to... Sorry, just realized how high up I had you. There we go. All these years, he's done his best to respect that and honor that. Plus, he thinks he killed someone, not for, like, work and the negotiating side of things, but, like, killed someone during sex. There was an incident when he was a teenager where he, like, in his 20s or whatever, he woke up. No memory of anything, like, out of his mind. They'd partied so hard he didn't remember the night. He didn't remember hooking up with anyone. But he woke up with a dead girl in the bed next to him, clearly strangled. Her clothing was removed. He wasn't wearing half his clothes, so he honestly believes that he killed her during rough sex. Because that's his thing, is he's into rougher sex. You know, hand necklace, that kind of thing. So he's worried about that. Trying to respect the whole don't touch our younger sister, she's off limits thing. It's the forbidden love, touch her and die, miscommunication. The main themes in this one. Because you have a strong-willed brat mafia princess with a strong-willed dominant bodyguard / negotiator. They're gonna clash. Part of their clash is the fact that one of his duties is to work out with her. He teaches her how to defend herself. So they do a lot of kickboxing, punches, MMA, that kind of thing. Joey, she has a secret, which is not only does she have a huge crush on him, she's a virgin. Excuse me. At the beginning of the story, she's like a 22-year-old virgin. And her so-called best friend likes to tease her about that. This girl's not really a good friend. She gets what she deserves later on, though. But her best friend won't let Joey forget that you're a virgin. In her best friend's mind, because she's 22, it's beyond time that she just stopped being one. Joey just hasn't found anyone that she wants to hook up with because she's so hung up on Max. So they end up, her and her best friend go out for a night with some other friends. Max shows up at the bar where they're at in time to see a guy that was talking to the girls put his hand on Joey's butt. Max throws a fit and gets super possessive. Joey gets ticked off at him. They get outside and she turns on him and starts lashing out at him. At some point, they end up making out, and then it goes further than that. And Max's control slips a little bit. Well, not a little bit, it just plain slips. He doesn't realize right away that she's a virgin. Not until they're done. But you get a very, very good against the wall, don't let anyone see, we shouldn't be doing this, this is forbidden scene. Where he finds out that she was in fact a virgin. Tells her and himself, we can't do this again. She's like, okay, fine. It hurts, but yeah, whatever. So then a couple days later, she approaches him because her best friend has once again been getting on to her. They're supposed to go out again somewhere else. And her best friend's like, well, if you're not going to sleep with a guy, at the very least, get some practice in doing like blowjobs or something. Just something that will give you something to make up for not having experience in other ways. Like I said, her best friend's horrible. So then she goes to Max and is like, look, you're the only one I trust. Can you teach me how to do this? Excuse me. At which point is when things really lock in, because that's when he realizes, I'm not letting you go. So you get a very secretive relationship going. Very push away, pull back in. Really shouldn't be doing this. I've lost my mind. Meanwhile, Max has his own secret that almost bites him in the butt. You get a whole bunch of drama going on. Joey's story is very drama filled because you get a lot of, we can't be together, we can't do this, and then turn around and, we're going to do this anyhow. It's a very drama-filled story, but there is that really strong, forbidden feature to it, and then the I hate you, but I love you. It's all there. Mix in some other family drama. It builds, and it still continues the storyline from Dante. Because, within Dante's storyline was this idea that, their father had committed a crime so bad that Dante ended up executing him and wants to put an end to it, so they have to go to their allies that, it's the Bratva, which is the Russian mafia. And they need the older Russian mafia guys taken out because they're part of something that Dante doesn't want to be involved in. So he goes to the younger Bratva guy and is like, I'll back you if you can take over, as long as you don't get involved in this. So then in Joey's storyline, it continues. So it's a nice continuation from 1 to 2. As a side note, you can read these by themselves. You don't have to read them together. It just helps. And we do still see Lorenzo and some more of Anya in Joey's story, which is important. Because then we get to book 3. Book 3. The storyline for Lorenzo and Anya that has been playing out from book 1, which is that she has cancer, it is not curable, and she has been slowly wasting away. Well, book 3 starts off, Anya has passed. Lorenzo does not handle it well. He really does not. It kind of fast forwards 2 years after Anya's passing. He's not really hooked up with anyone else. He's not gotten over her. He's not handling it. That's when we get a cousin of Kat's named Miri. She has an issue. She is married to an abusive guy who has no respect for her, has completely destroyed her self-respect, has completely physically, emotionally abused her to the point that she's just done. She's done with it. So she worked on getting this car put together that he had bought with the plan of working on it, and he never did. So she worked on it and got it up and running and takes off. Ends up at the house, at the Morretti house. While she's there, she's like, is there anything I can do to help out while I'm here? They're like, if you really want something to do, you can go organize our deceased mother's belongings in the library, help find places for them. We've never gotten around to cataloging what there is. She's like, yeah, sure. It's where she ends up interacting with Lorenzo, who does not want to admit he is attracted to her. It's a problem because he's not over Anya yet. He feels like he's betraying Anya by being attracted to her. And Lorenzo's story is a lot more emotional, because you really see the stages of grief in Lorenzo's story. He is dealing with not having Anya anymore. Now he's into this new woman, and he's not handling that well because in his mind, that's a betrayal. He shouldn't be enjoying this. At the same time, his relationship with Anya was a dominant sub-based relationship. And he's decided he's not going to give in to that side of himself anymore because that was just his and Anya's. Well, Miri is interested in dominant sub relationship. She's seen some stuff online and it intrigues her. It's what drew her to her husband to begin with, was he was more of a dominant type, but not in the way that she wanted. So she's into that. So she kind of, first couple times her and Lorenzo hook up in the library, it's more of a, we shouldn't be doing this. It's, he's the one who's like, I shouldn't be touching you. And she's just like, it's fine. It's been so long since I've had something good. It would be nice to enjoy myself a bit. She at some point approaches him about, are you this? And she goes into it. And he's like, well, it is, I am, but I'm not doing that side anymore. And she's like, okay, gotcha. It's fine. So she tries one thing with him. It kind of triggers him. Not in a bad way. Well, okay. She calls him sir because she looks it up online, and that's one of the things. So when they get ready to hook up at one point, she pulls out the sir line. And it reminds him of Anya and decides he ends up lashing out at her. So she leaves, decides, it's time I get my own place, gets ready to go. He gets upset at himself for hurting her feelings. And then his whole storyline is him dealing with the realization that Anya is completely gone, but it's okay for him to have another love. This is a very emotional story just because you get a lot of misunderstandings simply because he is still trying to heal from Anya. And Miri is trying to heal from an abusive relationship that took away her confidence and her self-worth. And she's got her own triggers. So you get a lot of emotional backlash in Lorenzo's story. The ex does become or the husband that she's working on divorcing does become an issue, leads to some drama. But in between all that drama, Lorenzo is really good at creating his own drama. I swear he takes a book from Joey's page, or a page from Joey's book, and creates his own drama before they finally start to figure things out. Overall, I don't want to ruin the ending for anyone, so if you haven't read the books, I recommend reading them. There's a reason I haven't read book 4 yet, and it's not because the series is horrible, because it's great. I love the series. However, the ending of Lorenzo's story kind of ties everyone up relationship-wise, so that all three are Dante and Kat, Joey and Max, and Lorenzo and Miri. They're in good spots. Things are going good for them. The enemies that have been trying to harm them are dealt with. Dante has kids. Joey and Max are in a good place. Lorenzo and Miri are decently getting things figured out. So it's one of those, when you have a story where everyone's good and you feel like it should be the ending because everything is tied just right, and you still have 100 or more pages to go. That's this. Everything's good, everyone's in a good place, and they've all already had so much trauma, and now there's a 4th book. So I'm hesitant to read the 4th book. I probably will and do a separate review on it, but I'm hesitant to read the 4th book just because right now everyone is in a good place. I will say, with Lorenzo's story, while Dante's story could have a feel of dominance to it, and Joey and Max definitely have a more dominant relationship, Lorenzo's story is really where the spicy scenes are very... They're dominant sub-based. So, throughout the story, once they trust each other enough, he gives her a collar to mark his ownership, essentially. So each book has a different feel, smut scene-wise. I like all the different scenes. They're all good. They're all tastefully done. There's still respect the women in them, so that there's still the whole, if you need me to stop, I will stop. You just have to use your safe word or do your safe touch, whatever they decide on. Just as a heads up for that. Overall, I give the first 3 books 5 out of 5 stars. And I highly recommend checking into them if you haven't checked into a mafia-style story yet. feel like this is a good place to kind of dip your toes into. All right, guys. Until next time, keep reading.